Yes, that's very kind, because I know you're not here to see me. Thank you, so great to see so many of you here, and so lovely and friendly as well. That's brilliant. Let me take that off of there. One point of order before we bring the main attraction in for this evening. If you have a mobile phone device of any sort, please can you make sure it's turned off or on silent. And that's it. Otherwise, hope you just have a great evening. We are very lucky this evening. We've got an actor who is well known from the worlds of Doctor Who. He's also appeared in Sarah Jane Adventures and Wizards vs. Aliens. Please can we have a huge Sontaha and a massive round of applause for Dan Starkey.
Hello. There we go, just perch.
Hello. Hello. We'll crack straight on with the questions.
Okay, no.
And the first question I'd like to ask is, when did you decide you wanted to be an actor?
When did I decide? Well, it sort of crept up on me, I suppose. I did plays at school, and I sort of realised that I was quite good at it, and it was fun. And then, yeah, it took off from there, really. But I danced around it for a little while. So after I left university, I'd done lots of plays at university, and then I thought I wasn't quite sure how to become an actor, sort of immediately afterwards. So I had a quite normal job in London. I had a little bit of stuff on the fringe, and after about 4 years or so, I'd saved up and got into drama school. Then my career progressed thence.
And what was your first bit of paid acting work?
My first paid acting job was a very strange folk musical called, based on Punch and Judy, just called Punch. And it lasted one night. And it was really quite an odd piece. It was directed by a lady who used to be in play school when I was a child, which was quite surreal. And yeah, I ended up playing a mandolin and lots of things like that. And I played the Doctor. Yeah, not the Doctor, but a Doctor in Mr. Punch, who, yes, and Mr. Punch killed me about halfway through. So that was, yes, it was a very strong piece of work as a testament to the fact that it lasted one evening. So, yes.
And I know that you were a Doctor Who fan as a kid.
Yeah.
So, I was wondering, what do you consider your era to be? Who was your Doctor?
Well, I think when I watched it when I was small, I remember there's like the very last couple of Tom Baker episodes, very, very dimly. I think my first memory is probably a marshman sort of coming up from the swamps. But I suppose my Doctor, probably when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and was absolutely real, was Peter Davison. And I didn't know very much about it, other than it was amazing. And so like the Five Doctors was the most exciting thing ever. But quite small, when I was quite small, they did a repeat season called The Five Faces of Doctor Who in between when Tom Baker left and Peter Davison took over, where they showed an episode from each of the previous Doctors. So I saw Unearthly Child, and I think it was the Crotons or something. And that just hooked me completely, because the idea that this character could be different people in different times was just actually an amazing concept. But yeah, so I suppose Peter Davison was kind of like my sort of Doctor. And then, I mean, I loved sort of like Sylvester McCoy as well. I mean, I like Colin Baker too. But sort of Sylvester McCoy, I was a bit more of a connoisseur by then, because I sort of read all of my Target novelisations and Doctor Who magazine, and I can see what you're doing there. That's very clever. But yeah, but the absolute sort of like innocent wow of it was Peter Davison, definitely.
See, I wondered whether it might have been Colin Baker, because according to IMDb,
right?
As you can see, I've done my very deep research on this. You were apparently appearing as yourself on The Doctors Revisited, the Sixth Doctor.
Yes, yeah, that's only being shown in America. I recorded that a couple of months ago, where it's kind of, I think, prior to I think it's eventually going to be released in this country as well, but I think they're, on BBC America, they've got a programme a month about each of the previous Doctors, because Doctor Who's becoming quite big in America. And working up to the 50th anniversary, they're doing this like a separate programme as to who all the previous Doctors are. And so I think I did a bit of talking head stuff. It was one of those afternoons where I sat in front of the green screen, and sometimes I can be articulate, like I hope I'm going to be tonight, and other times words not happen quite as easily. And so, yeah, I think they used bits of what I was saying. So I think I was probably talking about the two doctors in that. I think they were asking my opinion as a Sontaran as to how different the Sontarans were in the two doctors. Yes.
Okay, and another part of my in-depth research has been listening to other interviews that people have done with you on podcasts so that I can nick their questions and not think of my own ones.
That's fine, it works for me too.
And on one of those, you mentioned the fact that you had the Time Warrior on video.
Yeah.
I like to think of you sitting there as a kid thinking, one day I shall be a Sontaran. Was it anything like that?
Okay, I was a lot more literal-minded when I was a child. So one day I will have a TARDIS, and it will work, and it will take me to places unknown. But yeah, no. When I sort of had the call for the audition for for Doctor Who back in 2007, it was now, a long time ago. Then that was the one that I dug out my VHS copy of the Time Warrior from my mum and dad's attic and watched that again and reminded myself what the Sontarans are meant to be like. So that was the kind of template I was using. Lynx in the Time Warrior and Steyr in the Sontaran Experiment as well. I had that video as well.
Can you remember any particular mental notes that you made watching that you thought that's what I must do?
I'll tell you what I did started doing. Perhaps not in the audition, but I found the big first scene where he takes his helmet off the first time, and we see Lynx's hideous face, and he sort of does this. He goes. I sort of think that's what Sontarans do. They kind of taste the air with battle. And then I found myself on set, all the enormous fun bits where I was running around shooting unit troops in a Sontaran stratagem. And I was like walking down a corridor, and I didn't realise I was doing this, but I was walking down going, tasting the air of the battle. And then the director would come up to me and go, okay, Dan, do it again, lose the tongue. So clearly that made quite an impression.
The thing that makes me laugh about, though, in the old Doctor Who's with the Sontarans and the helmet lifting moment is in the Sontaran Experiment, where the Sontaran lifts the helmet off and Sarah Jane goes, oh, it's just like Lynx! And we all sat there going, no, it's really not. But anyway, that's it. So how did you end up getting on Doctor Who then?
Well, it was on a list of programmes that I really wanted to be on, and I had a conversation with my agent, a couple of weeks before, so I was like, oh, get me on Doctor Who, that'd be really great. And my agent sort of went, we'll see. Which is kind of agent was like, oh, can't guarantee anything. But then I think it coincided with the time when they were looking for actors of a certain height, when they were bringing the Sontarans back, so it was quite fortuitous I'd given a plot then. But yeah, it was just a straight. I think they first of all cast Chris Ryan, who's even smaller than me. He's like 5 foot tall, and I think as a result they did a full body cast of him and built costume around him. And then they thought, oh, okay, we've got to get lots of actors who are between about 4'10" and 5'4" to sort of try and fit this rubber suit. But yeah, it happened that they needed another actor for his lieutenant. Second in command, Commander Score, and I auditioned for it, and I got it.
And what was the audition like?
It was great. Well, obviously, just hearing that I got the audition, I hit the roof and went, it's so exciting. And my agent sort of said, oh, here you go, darling. It's for an alien in Doctor Who, and it's called Score. And I immediately, my actorly cool, which I have in spades, as you can tell, sort of cracked and went, oh, is it a Sontaran? And I could hear her blinking down the phone, so I'm going, I don't know. Yeah. So, but yeah, rest assured then, I felt like I'd done about 30 years worth of homework to actually before I went in there. And then, so I just prepared it, the way that I would do normally, got the episode, read the episode, and just prepared it. And so first of all, I went in there and I said, oh, so do you watch the series? I was like, yes, just a bit. And first of all, I did quite a straight reading of it to show that I'm a proper actor and I can do proper acting. And they sort of went, yeah, that's great. We'd like to also like the feelings that you got out of that. Yeah, can you make it a bit more alien? I was went, okay, how far can I go with this? So I sort of went, how's this? And they just went, oh yes, that's right. You managed to get a very nebulous note and then make it into something right. So yes, I was just the right level of alien while still remaining an actor. So it was good.
And then so you were then on their first of all as Commander Score, the Bloodbringer.
Score, the Bloodbringer. Yeah.
But I was in Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Skies. So what was it like walking onto the Doctor Who set for the first time?
Oh, it was fantastic. Well, there's a great thing about wearing prosthetics, because it does quite a lot of the work for you, because you look like an alien. And the first time people see these things, they sort of do take a double take and go, wow, that's great. But I remember walking on set, and then Freema, who played Martha Jones, she just looked and took one look at me and just couldn't stop laughing for some reason. It was hilarious. And she kept on just touching my chest and going, oh, is it real? I was like, yes, it's all me. But no, just my first day, it was my first television job, and it's like first day at work, and I'm strapping the Doctor's companion to a table whilst I'm about to dip her in clone feed. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, really. It's great.
And I know that this is an obvious question, but the makeup, how long does that take, and what's the process like of that being applied?
Well, it takes about 2.5, 3 hours or so, and usually you get in first thing in the morning, so it's like 5 o'clock call or something, and then I'm sitting in a chair, and it's like a big rubber thumb with a hole in it that gets stuck on my head. Well, first of all, I have a sort of a bald cap put on, with which protects my ears and my skull from my scalp from rubbing on the inside of the head. And then you get this it's like a giant roller on your head with a hole in it, and then that gets sort of glued on a bit, and then the face mask gets glued onto my face, which takes another sort of little while, and so that's about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour or so to get all that on, and then after that it's really, they fill in all the gaps, and then quite a lot of it is just painting it up so it looks so it's all nicely blended and looks realistic. And so for that part of the process, I can doze usually, and I've become sort of adept at dozing whilst people do this with paint in my face, flicking it away. But yeah, so it takes a while, and then there's the actual getting into the suit part of it, which depending on what I'm wearing, sometimes it can take longer than other times. If I'm wearing a full blue battle suit, then it takes a good half an hour to get into, a quarter of an hour just getting into the trousers, because that's the work of 2 people kind of hoisting me into them with lots of talc and plastic bags on my feet to slide down, and then so I make sure that I go to the loo beforehand, because afterwards there is no second chance. So I have to be quite careful with that. But yeah, you sort of hoist into the trousers, and then I'm in, and I walk around like a Sontaran. Yes.
And when you first put that on then and started being the Sontaran, did it take a lot of getting used to moving around in there?
I mean, well, the first thing is, first of all, you see a face in the mirror and it's not your face, which is a very odd feeling the first time. And thinking, it's moving with my face. But because the default expression changes as well, because obviously they've got a very heavy brow ridge and they're sort of scowling. So, the first time you go on set, it tends to be quite ingratiating. You go, hello, I'm Dan, whatever. And actually what you're doing is like... which is not amenable to making friends, actually. But, I mean, the first time I saw it, I've said before, it reminded me of an obese Steven Seagal. So facially, there's something about the nose and the brow ridge and the jowls that make them reminded me of him. But I've kind of got used to it now. But also the rest of the costume, because it's almost like wearing a corset, because it's quite tight around here, cinched in, and the trousers are they're sort of quite snug as well. And we did have Elsa Burke, who's the movement director for all of the different creatures, who are doing a workshop with us, so make sure we also walk in the same way. But you can't move your arms much above there because they're so built up, and also when you've got the neck rig and the shoulder pads on, then it clunks and you can sort of pull it off. And so actually taking the helmet off is virtually impossible. So.
Is it any easier in the butler suit then?
Yeah, the butler suit's great. The butler suit is made out of cloth. And this sort of thing, after you've worn clothes made out of silicone foam, you realise that clothes made out of cloth make a lot more sense. and crucially as well, the butler suit actually has a button fly, as opposed to the rubber trousers, which improves the quality of my life immeasurably.
So, after that first double episode, did you have any idea that you would become the template for the Sontaran race?
Well, not really. I hoped I might come back because they're clones and stuff, but I didn't think it would be quite as many different Sontarans as I did, because first of all there was the little cameo I did in David Tennant's last episode, where I was firing at Martha and Mickey and they knocked me out with a mallet. I fell over. I did some good tongue acting in that as well, which was, something I'm very proud of. And yeah, then Strax came along, and Strax is good.
And so that means you're one of the few actors who's actually straddled both the Moffat Smith era and the RTD Tennant era.
Yes.
Are there any particularly big or noticeable differences in working in those two different eras?
I mean, quite a lot of the time I was in the prosthetics wagon, sort of getting glued up. So it's kind of it's funny when you visit a television program, sort of, and you're not sort of like one of the regulars. I've become more of a regular with sort of like within the last sort of like couple of years with Matt's Doctor, but it's like it was much more of being a guest in Russell's tenure. But yeah, I suppose, I mean, Russell's great because I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's absolutely enormous. He's about sort of 6'6", and he's very avuncular, very nice, very warm man. I'm not saying that Stephen isn't warm, but he's just not as hello. But he was very much sort of like the sort of father of the company sort of type thing, and sort of you felt very much in sort of safe hands. And Stephen's great. He's got much more kind of I think he lets people sort of he trusts people to sort of get on with it themselves in a funny kind of way. But yeah, but I've seen Matt work more than David. So people sometimes ask me, who do you prefer working with? And it's not really a fair comparison because the only contact I've had with David was at the end of a mallet, so it's kind of whereas Matt, I've had a chance to actually watch him work, and he's very good at what he does.
So at the end of The Good Man Goes to War, you died.
Apparently so.
Did you have any inkling that the character might come back again at that point?
Well, death usually sort of it's the end of things, but yeah, I mean, I got the call last year, and it's like, oh yes, they want you back for Doctor Who. Oh right, okay, sometimes again. It's like, yeah, it's your character Strax. Right, okay, so I'm alive, am I? Yeah. And so like initially it was going to be for one episode, and then it's like I got a call from production. I was like, oh yeah, both the scripts will be sent to you in the post. It's like, both the scripts? Okay, yeah, it's a Christmas special, and the other, oh right, okay. Great, 2 episodes, that's fantastic. And then sort of like the name of the Doctor came through at really quite short notice as well, I think. And that was great. So it was kind of, the Paternoster gang was like quite a feature of the last half of the series, which is nice.
Your return was mentioned in, I think it was in The Snowman. I can't remember the exact line, but it was kind of a very throwaway line about you being back to life. Yes. Do you have your own method acting theory on how you happen to be back to life again?
Yes, don't do the method. I mean, we did record a little Easter egg thing, which I think was released by accident in America, called Demons Run 2 Days After, which I think might have floated around on YouTube. I think it might be on one of the DVD releases now, but it's a little scene of Strax waking up in Demons Run 2 days after the battle, and Jenny and Vastra inviting him to Victorian London. And it's become obvious that this mortal blow that felled him perhaps wasn't quite as mortal as he thought, and also they've used like the medical technology that they use on Clara in the Snowman has probably sort of played a feature in actually sort of bringing it back to life. And first of all, he's rather reticent to actually sort of go off with these two lesser beings to this place of London, but then he eventually is won round by the promise of violence.
And of course, when the character was first introduced, we found out that he owed the Doctor a debt of some kind and was therefore a nurse. Have you been given any further background on that, or have you had to fill that in your own mind?
No, well, I suppose in as much as I need it to actually sort of play the role, no, I haven't sort of like gone away and sort of written a backstory and 15 ring binders for them. No, but yeah, I think it's enough that it's some kind of fiendish plot that, I think initially he's just like an unreconstructed Nazi Sontaran who sort of is going around and hurting people and destroying them. And the Doctor, through some fiendish stratagem, has actually sort of tricked him and his humiliated his entire clone patch, which he's tried to redeem. But I think by the time we see him in Victorian London, it's a different stage of his life, which has moved on somewhat. Okay,
and then there was the Crimson Horror. Yes. I loved that episode, and as a massive Avengers fan, I've got to ask, what was Diana Rigg like?
Oh, it was fantastic. No, I was an Avengers fan as well, and it was great. When you got that scene with the capturing with Jenny, it's like suddenly like changing to an Emma Peel catsuit and it's like doing a bit of authentic 1960s judo on Molly. That was fantastic. But no, I sort of had, I must confess, I got a bit tongue-tied with Diana Rigg because I saw like, oh, you're Emma Peel. And I got a bit funny. But it was quite a long day, and I think it was in my Sontaran outfit, and it's difficult sometimes to hear what I'm wearing as well, because I've got 2 inches of latex. either side of my ears. So it's not particularly conducive to making conversation, because I've got to go, what? So Dame Diana was sitting next to me and sort of was inquiring as to whether, you know, I was coughing due to the smoke or just because I had a cold. But yeah, no, I had a brief chat with her. But, it was splendid. Yeah.
And then the name of the Doctor, of course.
Yes.
How much of the script for that did you get to see in advance?
Got to see almost all of it, but the bit at the end with John Hurt, that was a big surprise. So I was watching that on the television at home, and it was kind of like, that's John Hurt! It's fantastic! So that was quite nice being surprised by it as well. But you know, I think I told you earlier that sort of like the script came through sort of quite late for that. Just like the day before, you know, because usually we have a read through, we just went straight into it. I think partially because we're trying to keep wraps on it as well, and also because I think writing an episode like that, it's like throwing lots of balls in the air throughout the rest of the series, and then it's like trying to catch them to actually sort of bring them all together in one go. And yeah, it was just we were straight into it very quickly. So, but I got the script on an email, and then I sort of opened the first page, and all of a sudden it's like she talks to the first Doctor, and then I sort of went, that's amazing, that's so cool.
And I'm very curious. So clearly there were important and very secret plot points in that episode.
Yeah.
How much threatening goes on to the people involved in the episode, and what are you threatened with should you slip any information out whatsoever?
Oh gosh, well if you look at the BBC contracts, then so like, you know, they can sort of, I'm not sure they sue you, but you probably wouldn't work for them again if you was like, oh, if someone asks you on Twitter about major plot details, don't answer. That's quite an obvious one. Or things like, you know, there's loads of stuff about social media where it basically says, we advise that you don't be on Facebook, but if you are, if you say anything, then. So it's yeah, there are quite strong stipulations about that.
And do a lot of people bother you trying to find out plot points like that?
Occasionally you get the odd tweet, you know, and you sort of think, well, no, of course I'm not going to answer. But, yeah, most of the time people are, you know, quite obvious that I'm slightly constrained.
Okay, and obviously we've just had the news recently that Matt Smith is leaving.
Yes.
Was that a surprise?
Yeah, completely. Again, I found out about that on Twitter as I was going home on the bus one evening. So I was kind of like, oh, have I still got a job? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I really don't know anything about that either. But no, it's yeah. I mean, I can understand that like Matt is a very, very hot property at the moment, and I think being the Doctor is such a huge job that it's it's increasingly difficult for him to like juggle big projects and stuff. So I can understand why he's moving on. But yeah, no, he's had a good run.
Is it a role you'd ever fancy?
I wouldn't mind, but it's a serious job. I mean, if you look at sort of like Matt or David schedule before him, it's just incredible the amount of stuff. You know, when we were filming the memory worm scene in the Christmas special, we were doing that on a Monday, and Matt had been to New York that weekend doing publicity for the Asylum of the Daleks. So he was jet lagged, and he was still doing like an 8-hour shooting day, and so you know, so no respite or whatever, but sort of. And he still had the energy to keep on going, and I just don't know whether my batteries will be big enough for that sort of thing. But yeah, if they asked, I would probably give it consideration.
So do you think, I know obviously you can't give any information out, as we've just discussed, but do you think we will ever see Strax back? Do you think there's any chance we'd see him back?
I don't think it's the last you've seen of him, so yeah.
Okay, and you've been working with Big Finish recently as well, as the voice of the Sontarans, as well as the face of the Sontarans. Yeah. So how many Doctors have you acted with now?
I think I've worked with all of the extant Doctors, apart from Paul McGann and Chris Betterson. Oh. So yeah, I've worked with all of the sort of like old classic series Doctors. Yeah.
Are you hoping to complete the set?
Yeah, no, nice to add Paul McGann to my collection. But yeah.
And what's that like working with Big Finish on the audios? Do we have any Big Finish fans in? Yes, a few of us. There we go.
Yeah, no, it's great fun because I've done lots of radio before. Radio's great because you can sort of theoretically play anyone on there. But also it's just absolutely bizarre because again, being a sort of huge fan when I was a kid, the first time was like I think I did a Peter Davison one actually, the first one that I did, and that was just amazing. Just being in this, obviously they look quite different now from how they looked in the 70s and 80s, but there's just something about being in the studio, and all of a sudden, sort of like, you know, Sylvester McCoy's or Tom Baker's voice comes over the earphones, and all of a sudden, I really have some Doctor Who with Tom Baker. And it's kind of, it's like, this is like being a kid again. It's amazing. But yeah, and also I've got to play I do play the Sontarans a lot in Big Finish now, but also I've played loads of different characters as well, and it's just really fun. It's because radio, it's a very democratic process, which is, if you didn't know about how television was made, the fact that it takes ages and it's very finicky, then radio is a lot closer to how you'd imagine television being made. It's kind of a lot quicker, and you've got about 1 or 2 sort of like takes to do it, and then you sort of go along and you just tell the story a lot more. And certainly we've got about sort of 2 days to record a big finish or something, so you go in there and do it. But it's a very you're all sitting in the same green room, eating the same biscuits, drinking the same coffee, and it's just a nice. Socially it's very enjoyable.
And do you do a lot of other radio work?
I have done. I've done lots of stuff on Radio 4, previously, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm aware that you're involved with a theatre group in London who do radio plays on stage.
Yes, it's a company called the Fitzrovia Radio Hour, and which I've ducked in and out of for the last 5 years or so. And we do. It's a subversion of a 1930s radio show on stage. So we're all in dinner suits in front of chrome microphones, much like here. And we're doing things like punching cabbages to simulate a punch, or sort of. We most recently did an adaptation of Dracula just last weekend, so there was much cruelty to fruit. So Dracula sort of comes through the window, and then someone eats a peach really aggressively on the other side. And I was giving my Professor Van Helsing in all of his Dutch majesty, so it was great.
And. Oh yes, and of course you appeared on the very last Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, it was great. Well, obviously we didn't know at the time it was going to be the very last episode either, because I think Liz had kept it very private, that hadn't quite sort of how her condition had been. But I think the intention had been to do. I think they did season 4 and first half of 5 together, and then they were going to have a hiatus, and then Liz would come back and do the second half. But it ended up, because she very sadly died, being the very last episode of it. And so I was playing this character called Plark, who is a little one-eyed man who lives inside a computer and generates a holographic man to sort of gull the masses. And so, that's the hardest prosthetic that I've worn. So I've worn a few now, and that was one where I had, because I was like a cyclops, I had a motor on top of my head. So I couldn't really hear anything, I could just hear this motor going, moving around this animatronic eye. And also I could only see out of these 2 nostrils. So these 2 sort of tiny 5-pence pea-sized holes. And the weather was like it is today. You know, it was in July. And first morning, we were shooting on top of an office block in Cardiff. And the thing is, the production crew had worked out every single eventuality that if it rains in Cardiff, they know what to do, because that happens a lot. But what they hadn't worked out was if it's the hottest day of the year, then quite what to do then. And I nearly passed out with a heat stroke, and it was kind of. But then the rest of the time I had after my excellent prosthetics lady had a go at people. Then I had a runner walking around behind me, holding an umbrella over me throughout the rest of the entire shoot, just to make sure that I didn't get the rays didn't affect me too much. But that was a long week.
And now you're in Wizards vs. Aliens,
yes.
as well as Randall Moon.
Yes.
And once again, you're covered up in prosthetics. Yes. Are you starting to take this personally then?
Yeah. Yes. How rubber will travel. Yes. No, Randall Moon's a fun character. He's a hobgoblin, and he's got massive ears and a massive nose. And he will be talking eccentrically like this, so he will be an endearing little character. But at some point they'll let me on television with my own face, but hope springs eternal.
Well, I was going to ask that. Is that something you'd like to be on TV more when your own face on show?
I did do one episode of Casualty last year, also with Annette Badland, who's also in Wizards vs. Aliens. So I went straight from doing Wizards, where I was playing Annette Badland, who is in the first series of Doctor Who, and the first series of the revived Doctor Who was Blomfeldt the Sabine. And I play her henchman in Wizards vs. Aliens. He's sort of going, oh yes, mistress, being all very confident and cowering. And then I was immediately going into an episode of Casualty, where I was also working with Annette, except this time she got anaphylactic shock and she had to wear a prosthetic. I had my own face, and I spent 5 minutes in makeup and it was great.